Nissan is finally about to open the order books for the new Nissan Z, and in this video I want to talk to you about why I think this is one of the best retro-inspired designs, if not the best I've seen so far, and also why I think this will be the best-selling Nissan Z ever made. Now what we're going to do in this video, I'm going to compare the front, the side, and the rear, of course, with the 240Z and show you all the details that they took from the 240Z and implemented in a beautiful modern way in the Nissan Z. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about the Spec and Tech. I've made video on the Nissan Z before talking about this, but I think it's important to cover this because the numbers are pretty spectacular here. So the Nissan Z is powered by a twin-turbocharged 3-liter V6 engine, the same one you find in the Infiniti Q50 and the Q60, and in the Z you'll get 400 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of torque. And this is connected to either a 6-speed manual with very tight shifts or a 9-speed automatic with paddle shifters. After what felt like forever, it will finally go on sale this spring with a starting price of around $40,000, which from looking at the Spec and Tech sounds pretty fantastic. However, that's not what I'm most excited about when it comes to the new Z here. The numbers all look great, don't get me wrong. However, there are a lot of other cars that has equally impressive numbers. Take the Supra or the BMW M2 for example. What really gets me going with the Z is, of course, its design. That's what we're going to focus on in this video. The clear connection going back decades to the very first 240Z. In an automotive world where most new cars either try too hard with fake vents and body lines that don't mean anything, or don't try at all and disappear into the vast ocean of generic forgettable designs, the Nissan Z is a fantastic example of what can be done by honoring the past. It doesn't need fake plastic masquerading as vents or an aggressive frowning front fascia shouting for attention. And that's what I'm going to show you right now. I'm going to compare it to the 240Z. So let's have a look here at the front view and just take a moment here and appreciate what Nissan designers have done here. They've taken a classic timeless design, the 240Z, and made it into a production ready version of the old styling from the 60s, and I think they've done a fantastic job from all angles of this car. We're going to start with the front view here, and I'm going to show you a couple of details that they almost directly took from the 240Z. There are so much to cover here that I'm going to try to keep this video to the point. I'm so excited about this design, so it's going to be pretty hard to do that. But let's start in the very front end here with the air intake. So some people say that the new air intake right here in the new Z, it looks too big, and I can see why. Comparing it to the 240Z, it actually has almost the same kind of height in the opening, but what makes it look smaller on the 240Z is the fact that it's cut in the middle here by this bumper. And if we put a bumper like this on a modern car, you could tell that it's not gonna work because we can't have bumpers that look like it's a separate part. Today, bumpers need to be integrated beautifully in the front end, and that's why the intake in the Z here looks bigger than the 240Z because it doesn't have any additional thing or body panel covering part of it in the middle right here. It could probably going to be an aftermarket thing to put something like that on there to make it look narrower, and I saw that from the Tokyo Motor Show. They showed a Nissan Z that looks fantastic with a different front fascia. It looks a little more athletic than the Nissan Z here, but this still to me looks good. And what they did in the production version here, which I said when I first saw the Nissan Z before I saw the production version, and then I'm glad that they did here with the production version of the Z, is that if you look at the top part of the grille here, you can see that this is a different shade of gray or black than the lower part right here, and this creates a natural separation between the two. And this is very easy to spot when it's in direct sunlight. You're gonna see that this top part here shines a lot brighter than the lower part, and that creates this similar separation that the bumper did on the 1960s 240Z up here. And then you can see the dip here that where the headlight sits. It has these hollow eye sockets right here that goes into a corner right about this point right here where the hood line and the grille connects to the front end. And then you have the same kind of line going down right here, creating the framing for the front end. And you have the same kind of lines going on in the production version. It doesn't sit as deep, so the eyeball right here is a little bit more stylized. But if you look at this car from a straight front view, this is actually going to look almost round. These two half circles right here, if you look at it from a front view, it's going to look almost like it's a round lamp like we have in the 240Z. And you still have the same kind of framing here in the eye socket, and then you have the same line right here in the hood going into this corner that then creates the same framing that we have in the 240Z. Obviously the 60s design doesn't sit as low to the ground here, although you can have parts on the 240Z that stretches down here and creates a more modern look or a more modern stance for the front end. But I prefer the original like this because it looks sleek and it looks athletic with the thin nose in the front end. What I'm really excited about when this comes out on the market is to see what type of designs aftermarket companies will do with this front end. I hope that none of them creates a lot of fake vents. For example, this piece right here, I'm really glad that Nissan didn't fold for the pressure to create something here to have it look like it's an air intake right there when it doesn't have any function. Instead, it has a very clean surfacing right there with this little crease in the body, but that's it. No fake vents like we have on the, for example, Toyota Supra, full of fake vents all over the place, which is, I guess, part of Toyota's design philosophy and their styling, which is fine. But I personally prefer this simple approach to surfacing that we have right here on the Nissan Z. Next, we're gonna have a look at the rear view. There's a lot of cool things going on there, and that's actually my favorite view. But before we do that, I want to take a minute to introduce you to today's sponsor, Atlas VPN. Atlas VPN was created to make the internet more accessible and secure for everyone, and it currently has more than 6 million users worldwide. Right now, they're offering a massive 82% off discount, which means you can get the most affordable online protection using my link in the description, and it even comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Why should you use a VPN? Well, it protects your data online, and you get notified if someone is trying to access your data or has access to your email. Another reason why I think this VPN service is really cool is, for example, I had family from Sweden here the last week, and my brother wanted to stream a Swedish soccer match from the US, which he couldn't do. It was blocked in this country. So what we did, log into Atlas VPN and pinpoint our IP address to be in Sweden. That means that the computer thinks we're in Sweden. We can watch Swedish TV even though we are outside of the country. We can also save a lot of money this way because online services and products, they cost different depending on where you are in the world. So for example, a video game costing $3 in Israel, $40 in Switzerland. In that case, you want to pinpoint your IP to be in Israel and pay the $3 instead of the $30 or $40 you would pay anywhere else. This goes for concerts, gaming, airline tickets, and a lot more. Right now, they're running a huge discount, 82% off, using the link in the description. And this is a 3-year subscription for just $1.99 a month with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Time is running out, so make sure you grab this deal right now by clicking the link down in the description. Thanks again to Atlas VPN for sponsoring this video. All right, let's have a look at my favorite view of the Nissan Z. And this is just a fantastic modern interpretation of the legendary 240Z here. But at the same time, the rear end of the Z right here, it implements so much more than just a modernization of the 240Z. Because if we look at the taillights right here, and this is what I think Nissan did specifically well, is to take inspiration from not just the 240Z but throughout the generations. So you can clearly see that this is like a digitalization or modernization of the taillights from the 300ZX, and it looks like the 300ZX, but at the same time it also of course looks like the 240Z here. So it's a very genius way of implementing a new graphic that connects back to the first generation and the 300ZX as well. And also of course you have this black graphic down here, And what this does, this diffuser sticking up so high, I wasn't sure about that when I first saw the Z Proto, but now I saw it in real life in the Miami Auto Show, and it really makes sense when you see it in real life, because what this does, specifically looking at it from a side view, which we're gonna do next after this, is it makes it look a lot more athletic than if this was to be body colored right here, which would make it look a lot heavier or rear heavy than if we have it black like this. What black does is it removes, it kind of carves out some volume visually. Of course, the volume is still there, but having it be black, it carves out that mass in the rear end, and it makes it look more like the 240Z here, which is super athletic and very narrow, both in the front end and in the rear. And you also have the same kind of black graphic right here, housing the taillights, which we have right here in the 240Z as well. One of my favorite cars of all time. And if you were to sketch the 240Z in a side view, it is actually pretty simple with just a few key lines. You need the base line, and then you need a nice sweeping shoulder line with the muscle going over the rear axle to emphasize the rear wheel drive. And then last but not least, you need the Z roofline, which is what sets this apart from every other car from this era and also from today, I would say. So as I said, you have three key lines, and I want to show you these three key lines in the 240Z, and then how they interpreted in the new Nissan Z, the same kind of lines from dating all the way back to the 60s. And same thing here. This is a beautiful view comparing the side views of these two cars, and that's what we're gonna do right now. So let's look at the 240Z up top here. So as you see in the sketch that I just showed you, we have a baseline right here, then we have a long shoulder line going from the C-pillar right here, stretching all the way almost straight, with a little dip here in the front end, creating this very athletic side view, and of course the little bump here over the rear axle, creating this mass right here and this muscle, showing that this is a proper rear wheel drive car. But the most important line, which I'm sure you know by now, is the roof line. So we have this line right here, and then it goes up here and then dips straight down, and it never comes back up here, which we usually see on sports coupes that looks like this and from this era. And the same thing with today's design, it has the same kind of lines down here. The baseline, we have the little dip above the rear axle, creating this muscle tension in the rear end, but now they created even more, I would say, forward leaning motion because of one single line that they changed from the 240Z to the Z, and that is this line. So it starts from a lower point right here by the door handle, and then it goes up, and then it dips a little bit right here, creating this motion moving forward. And that, in combination with this rear fender line here and the little bend right here, it creates a very muscular, short, tight package looking at it from a side view, but it's still unmistakably a Z, simply because we have the same kind of roof line right here that dips all the way down, and that's even emphasized, like hammered in. And I really like this detail, because this shows that this is the intent from the designer, is to really hammer in the roofline of the Z and bring it from the 60s into today's world by adding this silver piece, trim piece right here, to really hammer in that roofline of the Nissan Z. And as you can see right here from a side view, you now can see that the mass in the rear end, this triangle here, is almost like it's disappearing. Specifically, if you look at this car against a dark background, it's really hard to tell if it's a body part there or if it's actually part of the background, and it creates this lighter feel in the rear end, and it creates almost a similar design or angle like we have in the original 240Z right here. I'm super excited that Nissan is finally opening up the ordering books for the Nissan Z. I can't wait to see this on the road and what people do to it, wheels and stands, and make the wheels flush with the bodywork and so on. It's gonna be a fantastic car to have some fun with, modifying and just cruising around in, because it feels like it's one of the last, maybe from Nissan, one of the last proper driving machines. And if anything, what the design of the new Nissan Z shows and proves is just how timeless the original 240Z design really was.